You've been gaslit again. Net migration has halved. The government cried out today, as if we're meant to throw confetti around and dance in the streets. But here's the reality. Over 400,000 people entered our country this year. That's the population of Bristol or Cardiff arriving annually. Who in their right mind is calling this a victory? Today, Labour have been strutting around on social media taking credit for a drop in migration they plainly didn't deliver. Grinning ministers slapping each other on the back over that 400,000 net migrant figure. But before they pop another bottle of flat Prosecco, let's look on at what's really going on here, because that number could be about to go through the roof. Late last week, Starmer signed his first of what I would say are two surrender deals, this one with the EU. Tucked inside this deal was the so-called Youth Mobility Scheme, spun as a friendly little cultural exchange, wasn't it? But it isn't just free movement through the back door. That's what it is, isn't it? The government says the scheme will have limits on entry, length and purpose of stay. But still, what about the referendum? A vote, a cap. 68 million under 30 EU citizens could be eligible to apply. That's who our government may be inviting to compete for jobs, housing and services, while British youths are being left behind. Again, youth unemployment here is already at almost 13%. In some towns, it's above a whopping 20%. So rather than fighting for your children, your grandchildren, the Prime Minister may have flung open the door to the likes of France, Italy and Spain and Greece, some of whom have double our youth unemployment rate. So ask yourself this: who loses out? Is it the middle, upper-class, North Islington elite graduate who can speak fluent French and family connections abroad? Or is it the white working-class lad in Sunderland or Swansea who's already been written off multiple times by our system? These young men have been ignored for decades. They're being told to keep quiet, wait their turn, retrain, upskill, while being shoved to the back of the queue in their very own country. A government claiming control of migration while quietly undoing the one glimmer of relief we got under Tory visa reforms, and Brexit is shameless. Britain cannot survive another 400,000 net migrants a year, let alone hundreds of thousands more on top of it. It seems to me we are all sat here being gaslit once again as this government pretends it has a grip on immigration but can't even stop dinghies entering British waters. Please give me and the public a break. But let's get the thoughts of my panel on this topic tonight. I am joined by Anna Firth, former Tory MP, entrepreneur and podcast host Rob Meir, and former Labour advisor Matthew Laza. Thank you all for joining me tonight. These net migration figures, Anna, of course, they're down from the highs of the last Tory government. We saw almost 1 million people entering the country. I don't think there's any love lost for those times. But should we really be celebrating halving quite a severe immigration crisis?
Well, I think progress is progress, but I'm not defending the high levels. They were too high. But what I think is absolutely outrageous today, we have been blatantly lied to by our Prime Minister. I think this is a new low. You put it on your screen, but I've got it on my phone. This is Keir Starmer this morning saying that today's stats show we have nearly halved net migration in the last year. That is a lie. What did he do in the first half of last year when he wasn't even in power? There is one thing he did do. He voted against every attempt that the Tories put forward to bring these figures down. And we now know it's not enough, we need to go further, but we now know that those measures have worked.
Matthew, bring you in here.
Anna likes to distract from the fact that she was a Member of Parliament when 850,000 net migration figures into the country. She sat there and voted.
No, it wasn't. I didn't get in, Matthew, until
it was the last year.
By-election.
Yeah, and you were there for the last year.
in the by-election.
Okay, and in the by-election, when you stood, did you stand on a policy of saying my government is wrong to have a net migration 850,000? I don't think so, Anna. You were part of a government that had the largest net migration this country has ever seen, and you think that's okay?
What I did, Matthew, is
and you think that's okay, Anna?
What I was doing was sitting there behind the...
I'll go and look at Hansard. How many times did you criticise it in the Commons? How many times?
Let me just finish.
How many times?
I was actually in the Commons.
And didn't criticise it?
Just let me finish, Matthew.
Well, it was my turn to speak, Anna, but anyway.
I'll come back to you in a second, Matthew.
It wasn't your turn. It was...
No, actually, I think when Alex says Matthew, it means it's my turn.
Right,
Bob comes
Matthew,
next.
do you agree that Keir Starmer hasn't done anything? This is a Tory win, realistically. This is legacy Rishi Sunak policy.
Not at all.
Visa reforms. Go on,
right,
go ahead.
First of all, I think what we should... I mean, look, I think the government has got a lot more to do. I'm not saying that all is well and the sun is shining. The Tories made some changes which have helped brought the figures down, but it's a bit like somebody who sets fire to a house and then puts the fire out. You don't congratulate them for doing that. They should never have let the Boris bounce get out of control. Boris Johnson, who should be stopping using phrases like manacled gimp, he's the one who is a gimp for getting him net migration up to 800,000. And just the two very quick things that the Labour government have done, which has changed since Anna and her colleagues were voted out of Parliament, which is that the decision rate, which we promised, the decision rate on asylum claims has got faster, and we've gone from 50,000 to 30,000 in hotels. It needs to go a lot lower yet, but that's in their 40% cut.
OK, Rob, listen, can Keir Starmer take credit for this? But more importantly, that EU youth scheme, it opens the door up to 68 million young people. We don't know... Apparently, there's going to be a cap. We don't know what that cap is yet. Do you believe that's going to inflate those figures again?
I don't think Keir Starmer can take any credit. He hasn't been in long enough to make any real change. There's still nearly 35,000 asylum seekers being funded £5.5 million a day in hotels, bringing the country down into ruin. They're getting free bikes. They're getting free PlayStations. He says he's...
Yoga sessions.
Well, they're getting cookery lessons on some of the best streets in our cities. And he says he's going to tackle it and it's all going to change and nothing's happening and it's getting worse. And then what about... I mean, I know you've asked me a question, but I want to just talk about something that no one's talked about yet. What about the mass exodus of all the millionaires and all the billionaires? They're all leaving every week. A friend of mine goes to Monaco or Dubai or Portugal or anywhere but the UK.
Yeah.
And so he says he's not going to tax the working people, which, of course, he uses semantics and sleights of hand, and they all get taxed. But when all the millionaires leave, where will all the tax have to be paid?
That's a good question.
Working class people.
Anna, I just want to come back to you for a second here. Obviously, 400,000 people, the size of Bristol. To be fair to Labour, the Tories didn't build any homes. And we've got a massive housing crisis on our hand. Obviously, Angela Rayner's also said that the target that's been set for her is completely undeliverable behind the closed doors. What are we going to do? Do we need net zero migration at this point to catch up with all the immigration we've had?
What we actually need to do is for the government to back the Conservatives' plan. The Conservatives have put forward a plan for an annual cap on migration.
Yeah, you did it in 2010 and failed.
And before I was interrupted again, and Labour voted against that yesterday and against that last week. Unless we bring out a serious plan, just on the same day that we've got Keir Starmer taking credit for the things that the Conservatives did that actually have worked, we know that he's giving away control of our borders, and we're going to be flooded with young people, and we have record numbers now of small boats. We had 800 coming across yesterday, disrupting the flotilla of little ships, some of which came from Leon Sea.
Matthew, so you look, I mean, young people, many working class young lads might not get the same opportunities to go travel abroad and have all these lovely things that this youth mobility scheme. How are Labour reassuring working class people? Because really, they're not going to be the ones taking advantage of these schemes, are they?
Well, I think that I don't think we should assume that they're not, because actually people from across the country go travelling. I'm from Manchester, and enough people go travelling. Yeah, look, I mean, the youth mobility scheme is going to be limited. It isn't free movement by the back door. Let's see what the number is, and we can come back and potentially criticise it.
Why do you think they're not giving us a number, though, Matthew?
Yeah, we don't know that yet.
Well, they'll give a number before it's introduced, and they'll give a number when the law comes forward. At the moment, they've just signed the deal with Europe, and the number will be subject to Parliament deciding and agreeing on it.
Why don't Labour help more of our homeless people get back to work? Why don't they reduce all the welfare? There's like 300 billion of welfare. I walk the streets of my city. There's so many homeless people now. Yep. I talk to them for my social media channels. They said there's no point going back to work because we'll get less money. And a lot of them want to work and they want their dignity. So why don't we get our people working?
Yeah, Matthew?
Well, I think absolutely right. We should do more for the homeless. The government has said that getting people off welfare and into work. Obviously, most homeless people aren't on welfare, and obviously, I think that's absolutely right. I don't think it's and or the other. I don't think the youth mobility scheme is going to make a difference. We do need to bring youth unemployment down, which is why it's great that the government is putting a focus on reskilling people. So, for example, it said it won't be issuing as many visas for sectors that the Tories did. We need to do a lot more. The sun isn't shining, but we're making progress.
Last word, Anna.
Well, we will never give our young people proper opportunities in this country if we are always relying on the immigration lever. I'm not against, actually, young people having the opportunity to go abroad for a short period of time. I think that's fair enough. But in my mind, a 30-year-old is not young.
He's not young. And listen, going back to the Tories, manifesto pledge after manifesto pledge, they said tens of thousands. We never got to that number.
Absolutely.
Why is it that this country can't seem to get to grips with the fact that the public are voting for low immigration and not getting it? 400,000 people is way too many people. People look at that number and say it's astronomical.
No, I agree with you. We've been way too slow to get a grip on immigration. I absolutely accept that. But what the Tories were doing in their last year was working. And if the Labour government had adopted more of their measures, it would be working even more than it is at the moment. We said, let's put up the visa for a skilled
So you put it up to 800,000 and you want congratulations on bringing it down a bit, Anna. Come off it.
No, come on.
What should... OK,
Anna, in 2010, the Tory government was elected...
What did you do, Matthew? What did your party do last year? They voted against...
What my party did last year, Anna, is take 20,000 fewer hotel rooms up and down the country being filled with migrants. Fact.
You voted against...
So whatever Kemi Badenoch's pretend plan is, 20,000...
We can't take you seriously.
You can't take seriously the government. They took down from 52,000 to 32,000. Exactly, it should be zero. I agree with you. But at least it's going in the right direction. They got it to 52,000. You should be hanging your head in shame that you sat there and voted the cash through. But it's talk, Anna, as we know.
Record levels.
Very fiery panel tonight.